What's up guys, welcome back. I know summer's on the way and we're supposed to be working on our beach body, but I'm in the mood for comfort food, and today I'm gonna show you how to make these smothered pork chops. Meet me in the kitchen, let's make it happen. First things first, let's take a look at these ingredients, and obviously the star of the show are these bone-in center cut pork chops. Doesn't get much better than that. You want them to be about a ½ inch thick or so. That's kind of how I like mine. If you want to get the thick ones, that's totally up to you. We're gonna hit them with a very simple seasoning, guys, because I'm using my all-purpose seasoned flour today, so we don't want to add any salt to the mix. So I'm going with some Italian seasoning, a little extra garlic, and we're gonna spice things up a little bit with some cayenne pepper. So again, guys, plenty of seasoning in my seasoned flour, so we're not gonna go crazy with the salt. Keep that in mind. If you're using your own seasoned flour, then obviously you can adjust the seasoning to your preference. But today I'm using a little dried Italian seasoning, some additional garlic, because garlic is great on pork chops, great on everything if you ask me. We're gonna add a little bit of heat to the situation with some cayenne pepper. No need to get too crazy, just a little dusting. Make sure you get that in there. I'm gonna flip it over, do the same to the other side. And then we're gonna add it to some buttermilk and a little bit of hot sauce.
And this episode is sponsored by Stamps.com. I gotta be honest, guys, I couldn't do this without my team, especially those that are working in the warehouse, helping me ship out all of these products to you guys in a timely fashion. When every person, moment, and penny counts in your business, you can't afford to take any of them for granted. Stamps.com gets it because for the last 25 years, they've been helping businesses like mine save time and money. That time and money savings helps me focus on my business, knowing Stamps.com has all of my postage needs covered with premium discounts and great rates. With Stamps.com, all you need is a computer and a printer. They even send you a free scale so you have everything you need to get started. Running a business isn't cheap, especially when it comes to fulfilling orders for your customers. Luckily, Stamps.com has huge carrier discounts up to 84% off USPS and UPS rates. Plus, Stamps.com automatically tells you the cheapest and fastest shipping option. So set your business up for success when you get started with Stamps.com today. Sign up at Stamps.com/MrMakeItHappen for a special offer that includes a 4-week free trial, plus free postage and a free digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts required. Just go to Stamps.com/MrMakeItHappen.
Now here, guys, I'm using some buttermilk. This is optional, but I do enjoy a buttermilk brine with most things fried, chicken or pork. The reason why is because buttermilk has a higher acid content, which helps to tenderize the meat, break down those muscle fibers, make sure it's nice and tender, and it helps the flour stick to whatever you're frying as well. So we're gonna add some buttermilk, about a quart of that, of hot sauce. We're gonna add a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, or as I like to call it, worst word in the world sauce. And that's gonna act as a nice little brine or marinade for us. We're gonna put our pork chops in there for at least an hour. You can go up to 2, maybe even 4 hours if you want to. Get them real nice and tender. Again, guys, we're not adding a lot of salt to this because my seasoned flour is seasoned to perfection. If you want to try it, there's a link for you down in the description box below. Or you can season your flour however you like. I like to use a little chicken bouillon. I like to use salt, pepper, garlic, onion powder, things of that nature. Maybe a little cayenne. Obviously my AP is in my seasoned flour, but you can use whatever seasoning you like on your pork chops, guys. Now we're gonna let that soak for at least an hour, 1 to 4 hours. Put that in the fridge, and we'll be back to fry it. All right, guys, so there's a couple things that are perfect for smothered pork chops when it comes to side dishes. You can use rice, white rice, yellow rice, or mashed potatoes. I'm a mashed potato guy. I feel like it sops up the gravy perfectly, and that's what we're going with today. Here I have 2 russet potatoes that we've already gone ahead and peeled, cleaned, chopped up. We're gonna go ahead and boil those in some salt water. Then we're gonna make our cream mixture on the side, which is comprised of heavy cream, butter, some Parmesan, some garlic. We're gonna add some thyme to the party for some aromatics and additional flavor. And then we're gonna add that to our mashed potatoes. Now, when it comes to mashed potatoes, the most common mistake that I see is people adding cold milk and cold butter to mashed potatoes. Cold butter is not as big of a deal, but you don't wanna add any cold liquid because it kind of ruins the consistency. So I like to warm mine up in the skillet like we're doing right here. I have about 2 or 3 tablespoons of butter. The more the better. To that, we're gonna add about a tablespoon of garlic. You can use fresh garlic or minced garlic, whatever you got laying around. I like to use this garlic paste just because it's easy. We're gonna add the thyme to that as well. That's gonna allow, you know, we really just wanna infuse the flavor of the thyme. We don't want the thyme to actually be in there in terms of like the sprigs of thyme. We're gonna fetch those out. We just wanna infuse that herb flavor into the mashed potatoes. So once the butter begins to melt and the thyme is in there, we're going in with about a cup and a half of heavy cream. You can use 1 cup of heavy cream and 1 cup of milk if you want to. Half and half works. Really, it's a marginal difference between, you know, whole milk all the way up to heavy cream. Whatever you typically use or whatever you have in the fridge will get the job done. But if you want it to be super creamy mashed potatoes, I suggest heavy cream. Now the next ingredient that I think takes mashed potatoes over the top is sour cream. Sour cream just pairs so nicely with potatoes. We're going in with about a 1/4 cup of sour cream. We're gonna get in there with our whisk and just mix until all of that is combined. Now at this point, you can add whatever you want. If you want them to be cheesy, you can begin to add some cheese. You can add different flavors here. Chicken bouillon powder, kind of jazz it up a little bit if you have that laying around, or just a little all-purpose seasoning, or you know, keep it simple with salt and pepper. Really can't go wrong. Today we're gonna use a little Parmesan though. So after a few minutes, you can see it's already starting to thicken up nicely. We're gonna go in with about a 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. Mix that in. You basically have a cheese sauce right here. Very simple. It's gonna elevate your mashed potatoes. You know, you guys know I like to use Boursin garlic and herb cheese. So if you have that in the fridge, throw that in here too. But I know I use that a lot on the channel, so I'm trying to cut you guys a little break. I know that stuff can be kind of expensive. So right here you have a fantastic sauce to go right over top of your fork tender potatoes. Get a little spoon shot to show you the consistency. Just beautiful. At this point you want to taste for seasoning, so that's what we'll do real quick. That's good. You'd be surprised at how much you can taste the thyme in this recipe. So I'm gonna use a little bit of salt and some black pepper, and that is all we need for our potatoes. All right guys, so shameless plug. Obviously I have my own seasoned flour that's on the market for sale. Feel free to use whatever your favorite seasoned flour is, or just season up some all-purpose flour at the house. Today we're gonna use mine though, and we don't need to add a whole lot to it because it's already seasoned to perfection. So don't go adding any additional salt to it once you get it at home if you do purchase mine, because you're gonna ruin it. But whatever you decide to use guys, when you do add it, you wanna set some aside because we're gonna use the seasoned flour to make our gravy. So if you season your own flour, taste it, make sure that it tastes good, set that aside. That'll be what you use to season or flavor your gravy here in a little bit. So we got about 2 cups of seasoned flour in there. We're gonna bread our pork chops that have been marinating for about an hour. Should be nice and tender and full of flavor. Just get in there, make sure that there's no bald spots. Sorry fellas. Just press down. We don't want a super thick breading on these, but you want it to be nice and evenly coated like so. All right, so we're basically gonna shallow fry these pork chops. 330, 340 degrees, just shy of 350. I don't want them to get too dark. Now the key here guys is to make sure that they don't stick to the bottom. We're gonna flip them a couple times to make sure they're cooking evenly, getting some nice color. Oh man, those look good. Some perfectly fried pork chops. You want to pull them just a minute or two before they're done because we'll let them finish in that gravy we're about to make. But that right there is a trio of beautiful pork chop. Now the old school method, or the way your grandma used to make it, is they'll typically use the oil that you fry the pork chops in to get things started. Me, I'm going to use butter because butter makes everything better. 2 or 3 tablespoons of butter to get the party started. If you really want to amplify the flavor guys, you can use some of that oil. But this is the way I've been, getting used to doing it. Starting with some butter. Then we're gonna saute our onions. We got 1 yellow onion here that we sliced. We wanna really caramelize that, let it cook down, get nice and tender, get some beautiful color on the onions. And then we'll add our seasoned flour that we preserved earlier. All right, guys, so as you can see, the onions are starting to caramelize nicely, get some nice color. We'll let this roll for another minute or two. Now, as you can see, we haven't added a whole lot of seasoning to this, or any seasoning at all. That's because we're using the seasoned flour that's packed with seasoning. So we're gonna go light on that. But you can use a little salt and pepper here, a little AP, whatever seasoning you like. A little Tony's Creole seasoning will work here also. Really, whatever seasoning you like here, guys. But let the onions do their thing in that butter. And then we're going in with about 2 tablespoons of our seasoned flour. Same seasoned flour that we used for the pork chops. We're just gonna mix that in. Immediately you can see the color, you can see the seasoning, you can smell it too. Absolutely perfect. We're just gonna cook that off for a second, make sure the raw flour taste dissipates. And then we're gonna deglaze the skillet with some chicken broth. That'll thicken everything up for the gravy. Hit it with a little heavy cream, season to taste. And we'll get to smothering. When I increase the heat to high, bring that to a boil. Quick reminder, guys, that all the specific measurements and ingredients for this recipe can be found in the description box below, so don't forget to check that out. So as you can see, we have a perfect gravy consistency going. Now my secret ingredient to this gravy is just a teaspoon of good quality soy sauce. It's gonna add some umami and it's gonna darken the gravy a little bit right before we go in with the heavy cream. Just adds a robust flavor. Doesn't really taste like Asian food or anything like that. Doesn't really taste like soy sauce in the actual gravy, but it just makes it pop. If you've never tried it before, trust me on this one, give it a try. Then finally, just to round everything out, a couple tablespoons of heavy cream. Just give that a mix. You can just see how nice that gravy looks. We're gonna taste for seasoning, make any adjustments. As always, guys, taste as you go and adjust the flavor to your preference. But this is looking good. We're gonna add our pork chops in there so they can properly smother. Now we tasted it and it feels like it needs just a little bit of seasoning. So I'm gonna hit it with some AP. A little salt and pepper will work as well. We're just gonna mix that in. And you got a beautiful onion gravy for your pork chops. Now speaking of those pork chops, it's time to add those back to the party. Oh man, if this doesn't scream comfort food, you need to get your hearing checked. And this is the part where I say, brace yourself for a trademark money shot. Say it with me, guys, looking good. The only thing left to do is get my knife and fork, dig in here for a taste test. But before we do that, please take a quick second to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that bell to enable notifications as well. All right, folks, this is what we call the moment of truth. Nice and tender pork chop. Gotta have some mash. Extra gravy.